Hello amigos, this is Pablo Garcia, the engineer photographer. A few weeks ago, I celebrated I was fully vaccinated by taking a trip to White Sands National Park. It was my first time there. Now, in preparing to go to the park, I read a few articles on the internet and I talked with a few local photographers who have been there a number of times and they gave me some great suggestions. And in this video, I wanted to give you some of the things that I learned and help you prepare for your future visit to this great photographic location. Now, how did we get there? The park is located in southeastern New Mexico in the United States. You can drive 3.5 hours south, primarily south from Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I live, or you can go about 1.5 hours north from El Paso, Texas, also on the border with Mexico. And the city of Alamogordo is a great location to stay with plenty of lodging options that are about 20 minutes from the entrance to the park. Now you will ask, when is the best time to go? And really you can go any time of the year. But as you see in this table, the summers can be very hot. It can be brutally hot. And it's better you avoid the summers. Spring and fall are probably the best times, but even in the winter, if you have the right preparations, you can go there. You can see on this table that the summers can be 96, 100 degrees and it's very dry, so you need to make sure you have plenty of water and sun protection if you go during the summer. But also you need to take care of yourself if you go any other time of the year. Now, the park opens at 7 in the morning, at least it was during the time that I went, and it closes at 9 at night. So 7 in the morning sounds early, but you know, as photographers, not early enough to get sunrise colors. So the park offers two options. You can apply for a campsite inside the park. There are a number of limited campsites where you can pitch a tent and stay in the park. Or you can pay $50 for every 30 minutes to have somebody come in and open the gate for you or for your group. Now, $50 for every 30-minute segment of additional time you want to be there early sounds like a lot, especially if you're there by yourself. But if you're with a group, you can distribute the cost. So the cost is for the group, not per person. And you need to check the website for the park to see if that option is available to you. When I went, that option was not available. They were still adapting to the COVID regulations and beginning to fully open the park. So staying in the park for camping or getting there early wasn't available. So you better check on the park website and see if that option is available to you. Now, the first thing is you need to take care of yourself. Long sleeve shirts, a hat, sun protection, and plenty of water. Remember, this area is extremely dry and can be very hot. Even in days that don't look very hot, because of the dryness, you're going to be losing a lot of water. So always have water with you. The other thing is you need to stay near the trails. The trails are marked, you can see in these photos, are marked with some posts. And you can just follow the posts and stay on the trail. But there are times, like at the photo at the bottom, where the posts are hard to see, especially if you get a little bit off the trail or the posts are in areas in between the dunes. Now, for that reason, it's always to have a good sense of where you are. You can have a compass or you can download maps to your phone. Don't rely on having a cell phone signal to download maps, because the signal, depending where you're in the park, is either very weak or it doesn't reach. So make sure you download GPS maps to your phone in advance. Now, talking about GPS, the park is located next to an Air Force base and to a military test area. And because of that, GPS signal may be disrupted at times. And with your luck or my luck, will be around the times that you need it the most. Don't rely on GPS 100%, especially if you're getting off the main trails. The next thing is you need to take care of your gear. As I showed you in this photo, there is sand everywhere. That's why it's White Sands National Park. But the sand is not only on the dunes, the sand is in the air. Any breeze will get the sand up in the air. And especially you need to avoid changing lenses when you're outdoors. If you're going to change lenses, do it inside your car. Second thing you need to do is always have, I have one here, always have a little air pump and a soft brush to be able to clean your camera, remove the sand from the lens, from the areas around the buttons. Don't want to scratch your lenses or getting the sand deep inside the buttons or the gaps around the buttons. So make sure you have a little air pump and a soft brush. The other thing is, I told you need to use sunscreen. Well, if you have sunscreen, you need to make sure you wash the palms of your hands. Depending on the chemicals on the brand of sunscreen that you use, by touching your camera, you can damage the finish on the lenses or even erase the ink on the buttons of your camera. So a good precaution is apply sunscreen and then wash the palm of your hand so you don't get that residue, those chemicals in your camera. As you can see in this map, the park covers a very wide area. Now, there is only one area along the single road on the left side of the map that is accessible to the visitors without additional permits. And this is the area I'm going to show you in some more detail as we go further into the video. Where is the sand coming from? Well, there is a lake called Lake Lucero that has a lot of the sediment that comes down from the mountains after rains or snow. The water carries the sediment into the lake, and when the lake dries up, the winds blow that sediment and deposit in what we now see as dunes. And the dunes move all the time, so every time you go, it's going to look somewhat different. Now, this single road is about 8 miles long. So to go from park entrance at the bottom of the map all the way to the top is about 20-25 minutes, only 8 miles. It's a very easy to drive. It's a two-way road, very flat. Any vehicle you have will be able to get there. Now, I had divided this map into 3 areas. Area 1, Area 2, and Area 3. Area 1 is the area where the Chihuahuan Desert that starts in northern Mexico meets the white dunes. There you're going to see a combination of vegetation and dunes, but the photographic opportunities may be limited. We'll cover in more detail. Area 2 is where the vegetation starts to go down and you'll be able to isolate individual plants and you start to see cleaner sand around you. And area 3 is where there is almost no vegetation at all and it's mostly sand dunes. So let me show you in more detail those 3 different areas. Now, I put together this time-lapse video that you're seeing now on the screen as I drive from the park entrance going inside all the way to the end of the road. And as you see, this area has quite a bit of vegetation. That was area 1. Now here we are in area 2. The vegetation has gone down. Now you can start to isolate individual plants like yuccas or grasses. And as we get further up the park, you start to see cleaner sand, especially on the left side. And as we approach the very end of the road in what is called Alkali Flat Trail, here's the area where you're going to go see those clean dunes all over you. This very fast video basically took me about 20 minutes of driving. So now let's talk about the areas in some more detail. So area 1, as you saw in the video, is where you have more vegetation and sand. Now in this area, because it's where the vegetation meets the sand, you also have the more opportunity to see wildlife, although that probably is going to happen late afternoon or during the night. And unfortunately the park closes at 9 p.m. and you're not going to be there. Let me show you some of the images from this area. In this area, for example, as you take the Dune Life Nature Trail, you'll be able to see different types of plants. You may be able to isolate some of them. Here you see the single tree with very interesting root. The dune basically move away and is leaving the tree behind, and perhaps in a few years this tree is going to die and topple down. Also, you can see some of the wildlife. I was lucky enough to see this earless bleached lizard. I saw a couple of them. You just see some movement on the sand. So having a camera with a telephoto with you comes very handy to be able to get animals like this. And you can also see some interesting insects that come in during the day, like this one in this other image. Now this area one makes for some nice interesting walking, but it's not necessarily you have limited time the area that I would recommend to you. The photographic opportunities here will be somewhat limited. As you move in further into the park towards the middle area of the park, what I call area 2, now you see different areas where you can park and begin to isolate individual plants like yuccas or grasses with cleaner sand dunes around them. This is also the area where the camping area is set aside. You can see this loop, the backcountry camping loop trail, where there are about 10 locations where you can pitch a tent and camp overnight. You had to apply for that with plenty of time. So go to the website for the park and see if any of those sites are available for the day that you want to stay there. I recommend you try to stay there at least one night. Now, those camp areas are out there in the open. There are no trees. There is really no protections. If you have a very windy night or a storm, you better be prepared for it. And you may be half a mile or a mile from your vehicles. Make sure you plan it properly. Now, let's show some of the images from this area. Here in this area is where you can start working your compositions, especially early morning, late afternoon, when you have long shadows. You can work to get some of the beautiful yucca plants like in this image with the long shadows and the textures on the sand. Other times you can focus on other plants like this set of this grass lump with clean sand and almost no texture on the sand, or even this other image where I have these two yuccas with larger dunes behind them. I wish I had cloudy skies in this image, but you get what you get. Again, area 2 will be a great location to photograph early in the morning or late afternoon to take advantage of the long shadows. And finally, as you drive further in all the way to the end of the main road, the main loop is called Alkali Flat Trail. This trail is about 5 miles long as you make the whole loop, but you don't need to walk the whole trail. As you park in this area, you can basically photograph here on the left of the trail or the right of the trail. You don't need to go all the way in and spend 3 hours making the loop. Basically, you're not too far from your vehicle, maybe about 20-25 minutes. And especially you're shooting a sunset where you need to have enough time to get to your vehicle and drive before the park closes. Now this area is where you're gonna get the cleanest dunes and almost no vegetation. Let me show you some of the images. So here you have this image, clean dunes. I was playing with the dune shapes. I was lucky enough in that afternoon that I got some clouds in the sky that play nice with these dunes. And I like the soft contrast that I have on the dunes themselves. Here you have this other image where I was able to use my lens at 500 millimeters and zoom in tight and try to get a more abstract type of image, playing with the patterns and the textures in the sand. Here you have this other image where late afternoon, if you get some color in the sky, that color is reflected on the white sand. And you can get some very nice images with different colors. Not just white sand, but colorful sand. And finally, in this area is also the area for beautiful sunsets. I was hoping to get a colorful sunset. We got mostly yellow, but we had clouds, and I think we still were able to get some really nice images. Now, in this area, it's nice to have a long lens, something like 100 to 400 millimeter, like this one. And something like 100 to 400 or 100 500 millimeter or even a 70-200. It's really nice to have a good zoom telephoto in this area to give you plenty of flexibility. Now, but you can also photograph people. The 2 days we were there were a few people, not a lot of people, but they were really having a great time enjoying this park. And you can take the advantage of photographing some other activities as well. Here you have, for example, this image. This individual was just enjoying the sunset. It's a great peaceful location to just come in and enjoy the serenity of the place. And I use this individual facing towards the sunset to set the scale, the serenity of this image. In this other image, here was a man with his dog, and it provided a sense of scale to the dunes. In this other image, there was a young couple that were taking advantage of their time at the park and being playful on the sands. Here you have the woman in a dress that really stands out with his friend or boyfriend jumping on the sand. And here you have this other image. We had a wedding party. There was this bride taking images for her wedding in this great location as well. Don't just do landscapes, also focus on the people. Finally, I hope you like this quick review of White Sands National Park and what to do. Make sure you have a short zoom lens like a 24-105, like this one. This one came really handy in area 2. Allow me to isolate the plants like the yuccas and the grasses, but also gave me some flexibility to work different compositions. And in area 3, I primarily use my zoom telephoto 100-500, although you can use something similar 70-200, 100-500 to give you the flexibility that you need in this area with vast open landscapes. Make sure you put White Sands in your bucket list, and I hope to see you there sometime. Well, if you like these videos, please subscribe to my channel, take an opportunity to tell a friend, send me a comment, and I'll see you next time.